Hey, this is Susie again, the Utah ambassador for the Foundation for Sarcoidosis Research. And I hope you're all feeling pretty good today. So today we are talking about the causes and risk factors for sarcoidosis. This is in my opinion, a little bit of a controversial topic because there needs to be so much more research done on sarcoidosis. So yeah, I'm just going to share with you what it says on the website, and you can form your own opinions. I'm curious to hear what they are, so please feel free to share them with me. So again, we are working with stopsarcoidosis.org, and under what is sarcoidosis, there's a section that says causes and risk factors. And it even says right here, the very first line, no one knows exactly what causes sarcoidosis. Although our understanding of the mechanisms by which sarcoidosis develops is advancing. So translation, the researchers are getting a better idea of what makes sarcoidosis develop, but they still don't know what causes it. Experts currently think that being exposed to certain things, so certain people that have a certain genetic makeup, being exposed to certain things is what makes sarcoidosis. It makes the cells in the body react and start to recruit inflammatory cells into the organs. So in other words, something starts an immune response, which is confusing again because they're saying now that this is not an autoimmune disease. Some research suggests that bacteria, viruses, or chemicals might trigger the disease. These triggers, although usually harmless in most people, might irritate the immune systems of people who are at a genetic risk for developing sarcoidosis. So this implies that maybe people that get sarcoidosis have a certain gene that makes them more susceptible to it. So there are theories that the immune response may be overactive or in some cases not appropriate. And that results in the ongoing inflammation. It also makes the formation of granulomas and in some cases the scarring or fibrosis. There is some growing evidence that this sarcoidosis immune response might also include an autoimmune response with some reaction to self-proteins. I'm not even sure what that means. But again, when they say this is not an autoimmune disease, that's pretty confusing, isn't it? However, at the current time, we do not consider sarcoidosis for the most part to be an autoimmune disease like rheumatoid arthritis or systemic lupus. Let's see. So, yeah. While the role of autoimmune mechanisms is still not well sorted out, some studies have found antibodies against human proteins at increased rates in some patients with sarcoidosis compared to others with and without sarcoidosis. So that was pretty confusing. So antibodies against human proteins. I'm not even sure what that means. Do you know what that means? In addition, the cells from some people with sarcoidosis demonstrate an immune response to some of their own proteins similar to an autoimmune disease. So that sounds like they're calling it an autoimmune disease, but they already said they're not. The exact role of this autoimmunity in sarcoidosis is not clear. No kidding. Although it is actively being studied. So they are researching. That's the purpose of the Foundation for Sarcoidosis Research, and they are doing more than anybody else. It is not clear that the reaction to self-proteins is actually the main culprit behind the granulomatous inflammation. Wow. big words. It may be a bystander caught up in a larger reaction. So my interpretation of that is the reaction to self-proteins is a theory. I think they're still investigating. The presence of this autoimmune process could support the use of some treatments that we have been testing in patients with sarcoidosis, such as rituximab. At this time, while we do not think that sarcoidosis is the same disease like rheumatoid arthritis or lupus, studies do indicate that some of the immune reactions and genetic factors are similar between these diseases. So that's interesting. They're thinking maybe it's related to lupus and rheumatoid arthritis. Furthermore, are you bored yet? There is an increased coincidence of some of these autoimmune diseases and sarcoidosis than would be expected by chance alone, including Sjogren's disease and others. So basically that's saying that more people with sarcoidosis get autoimmune diseases than is coincidental. Like, it seems to be like there's a connection because a lot of people with sarcoidosis are getting autoimmune diseases. Raising a question as to whether they share some of the same mechanisms. By better defining the mechanisms that cause sarcoidosis, including the role of inflammation, immune over or underactivity, and autoimmunity, we may be better able to treat patients with sarcoidosis and maybe one day even prevent the disease. So I think that's basically saying we need more research. So in summary, although there are some similar features based on today's science, we do not advocate using the label autoimmune to describe sarcoidosis. So that sounds to me like they're just saying they don't have enough information to call it an autoimmune disease, which is why they call it an inflammatory disease. What are the risk factors? Sorry, I guess I'm struggling with shortness of breath today. Although it's funny, I've been moody this morning. It seems like making the video is improving my mood, so thanks guys. What are the risk factors? Once thought rare, sarcoidosis is now known to be common and affects people worldwide. The disease can affect people of any age, race, or gender. So remember that before I read all this other stuff. You can be any age. I was reading recently in a group, there's a child that's only 9 years old that was diagnosed, poor little kid. But there is a benefit there. At least they know at a young age what they're dealing with. Any race, that is so important. You can be black, white, Hispanic, Asian. Sarcoidosis doesn't care. So don't think somebody can't have it just because their race is different. And any gender, you can be male, female, transgender, anything in the spectrum, and you can still get sarcoidosis. However, it is most common among adults between the ages of 20 and 40 and in certain ethnic groups. Disease severity can vary by race or ethnicity. So I was diagnosed at 46, but my opinion, I've had this and been fighting this for many years. In the United States, it is most common in African Americans and people of European, particularly Scandinavian descent. These groups can also experience more severe and chronic manifestations. I haven't looked at my DNA test today. DNA is like a hobby of mine. I think it's really fun. But I'm about 18% Scandinavian, I think. Actually, that's Swedish for me. Scandinavia is like a bigger area, but my family actually comes from Sweden, just a few generations back. Let's see, me, my mom, my grandma Edna, and yeah, so I am the 4th generation born in the United States since the immigration from Sweden. Among African Americans, the most affected U.S. group, the estimated lifetime risk of developing sarcoidosis might be as high as 2%. Well, To me, 2% is pretty rare. But I guess if 2 people out of every 100 are getting sarcoidosis, that's a lot of people. The disease is slightly more common in women than men. Oh, sorry, my nose itches, allergies. The disease manifests differently in different groups of people. While the lungs and lymph nodes are affected in almost everyone who has sarcoidosis, so that's not everyone, but almost everyone has lung and lymph node involvement. African Americans and people of Japanese descent are more likely to have eye involvement than Caucasians. On the other hand, skin lumps are most likely to affect people of Northern European descent. And those with a Japanese background seem prone to sarcoidosis-related heart problems. So I don't know how useful that is really, because I've seen Caucasians that have eye involvement. I've seen African Americans with a lot of skin involvement. I actually haven't met a Japanese person with sarcoidosis yet, although I know they're out there. So, but yeah, so if you have sarcoidosis, it can attack any part of your body. So it doesn't really matter statistics when it's happening to you, right? Research also shows that risk appears to be elevated to some extent in someone, or if someone in his or her close family has sarcoidosis, although researchers have not yet found a gene or genes linked to the development of sarcoidosis. So apparently now that I've been diagnosed with sarcoidosis, it makes anyone that's related to me more likely to get it. Say hi, my kitty. So if you want more information, oops, sorry, I bumped the camera. On this website, there's a link where you can click to learn more about the ongoing research. Foundation for Sarcoidosis Research is very involved in research. And I'll try to make sure and post the link this time. But it is stopsarcoidosis.org, and under what is sarcoidosis, its causes and risk factors. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.